Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Hey, let's see if we can get everybody tuned in on both sides. Let's check out TikTok and YouTube, make sure we've got audio going on both. And I sound like I have an echo, so let me fix that. Okay, echo should be fixed. I don't know why it does that. Oh, and I've got a double screen. Maybe we should just, well, I guess you get to see me twice or I get to kill one of those. What should I do? Maybe I should kill one of those, huh? Oh, yeah. There you go. Maybe this will be better. All right, TikTok. Do you still have echo on TikTok? Just give us a second. Get this audio shit worked out. I'm getting better at it. I swear I'm getting better at it, but it's not perfect. It's a little janky. It's better. Perfect. You shouldn't have an echo on the TikTok side. And I guess you're only going to see me up top, but that's going to be a problem later. So maybe I should fix that. Anyways, we'll work that out in a little bit. In the meantime, let's just work with the what we got for the moment. I want to get a sound check real quick. Okay, I already got a sound check on YouTube. So we're good on both sides. Perfect. Okay, sweet. Thank you for bearing with me on my little intro thing. It lets me let you know that I'm here, but I'm not going quite live yet and just rambling because some people complain that I just sit there and ramble. Like, when is this guy ever going to start? And I'm like, wait till the top of the hour. Some of you, by the way, are well ahead of me. It looks like from the comments that you guys are all seeing stuff I haven't seen before. You know, it's very hard to keep up on everything. Everybody's like, you know, oh my gosh, you're so yesterday's news. It is what it is. So let me tell you a little bit about the overview, what's going to happen today for those who are just tuning in, give you a quick look. Don't forget, by the way, after the show, which is going to be about an hour long, we're going to have the after hours or after dark party, Devil's Advocates backstage. That'll be broadcast on my backstage account. I don't have it queued up like a moron. I didn't have that queued up, but I will be showing you towards the end of this, the Discord channel, so you can get in for the audio, and then I will broadcast that to YouTube on my backstage account. I know that sounds super confusing, but if you want to join that, it's an adults only party, 18 and older. You have to be to get into that and watch it because the language gets a little rougher, the conversation gets a little freer, and all those good things. So it's only for adults, and that's for after this official show is over. Looks like my friend Cynthia's in here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Cynthia coming up here in a second, but let me tell you what's going to be the outline for today. By the way, let me remind you before we get started, even though you saw the disclaimer on my screen for a moment, that everything that I say is for educational entertainment purposes only. I am not an attorney, but I do give legal analysis from my perspective. I break legal documents down a lot, mostly on my long form videos. If you're on YouTube, you probably are familiar with my long form videos. I've already been restricted. Right off the bat, I have gotten restricted on YouTube or TikTok. So I didn't even get into the monologue. It contains unoriginal content. They pinged me for my intro video. So TikTok is restricting me once again. I guess that's it. You got the 11 people that made it in TikTok. That's all that's going to be in there because they're not showing my video anymore. My other option, of course, is to shut this live down and restart it. So maybe I should do that real quick. If you guys will bear with me, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm getting tired of TikTok, but I love you TikTokers. It's not you TikToker users. It's TikTok's ridiculous algorithm. I'm just going to quickly shut down TikTok, restart that live. And that way we'll hopefully get past that. All right, we're getting that queued up. TikTok is getting ridiculous. This is why also that we're going so heavy. YouTube's very strict on copyright. So yes, we've already ran the video, by the way, through the copyright checker on YouTube, and it says it's fine. TikTok apparently doesn't agree. So we live in a world. We'll see. If I have to dump the intro for YouTube as well, but right now YouTube has not had a problem. It's all TikTok's issue. All right, enough bitching at TikTok. Let's go move on. Tonight's show is going to be one half essentially Luigi Mangione, one half Coberger, but it's going to be done a little weird. So, and by that I mean about a third of it's going to be Luigi at the start, about a third of it's going to be Coberger at the start, and then I'm going to have a new segment at the end called my mailbag, and I'm going to pull out some comments from YouTube and make some that users have made throughout the week that I want to highlight and address in an open forum. And so with that mailbag portion, half of those letters will be from Luigi's case and half will be from Coberger. So it's going to kind of be split up in a weird way, right? We're going to talk about Luigi for a while. We're going to talk about Coberger for a while. Then we're going to go to the mailbox. We're going to talk about Luigi again for a while. And we're going to talk about Coberger for a while. And then we will end and wrap up. So there we go. So let's get into some of the upcoming things. By the way, we are working. It's mostly me. I am working on some things in the background. Some of you may be familiar with Pete Altieri. He's from Murder Metal Mayhem. Him and I are working out a show. He's got a theme a little like mine, right? So he's got kind of the whole like devil horn thing, and I've got devil's advocates. It really is kind of the concept of playing devil's advocates. Although, of course, if you remember, you get little imp icons, and I have a lot of imp themes and all whatever. So anyways, we're a good fit together, I think. So we're working out a show for Murder Metal Mayhem, and I've got some ideas. He's got some ideas that we're going to bounce off each other. We're going to work something out, and we're going to figure out how to do that. So that should be coming up soon. Cynthia Thornton, who may or may not still be in the room, she's my attorney friend, practices New York and Texas. She's got a credential list longer than my arm, and so we won't go over that all, but some of you may have seen Cynthia before. Her and I haven't gone live in a long time, so I'm going to have another one of my newer attorney friends come on and talk about, probably most likely, I'm certain, the Luigi Mangione case. My wife is in chat on TikTok. That's Rhonda by the way, down there, if you see. So she just said, hello, everybody. She's a moderator and / partner. Although I don't know that this account has the moderator. Yes, she does have the moderator privileges. It looks like we've got some moderators over on the TikTok side as well. So if TikTok doesn't shut us down, you guys can do some damage over there. And then last but not least, remember that Birdie Bombshell and I from TikTok and YouTube are going to be going live every Monday together. That's our plan, at least. Last time we went live, it was insane. There was over 1,000 people concurrently watching the live. I'm still getting emails from people and comments that how much they loved the show. I'm not even sure what we did special that night, but it was a big show. Everybody loved it. And Birdie and I are going to keep that theme up, as far as I know, every Monday. So people seem to enjoy the two of us when we banter with each other. Apparently, we kind of like riff off of each other, and I'm a foil to some, I don't know. It's a thing. So I hope that you'll enjoy that. And again, I'm gonna preview a new section of this live tonight. On lives, I'm gonna try to go into this mailbag. So I got some videos to pull up, a little animation I made. I'm working on trying to become my own graphics guy and all that good stuff. Remember, there's the After Dark show afterwards, so we'll talk about that some more. And tonight's overall theme, if you will, we're gonna cover both cases a little bit, Coberger and Luigi. We're gonna start with Luigi. The overall theme, if anything, in my opinion, is to please keep an open mind. And by that, I mean that I want to point out that the reason why I have the Devil's Advocates channel is because I believe in keeping an open mind. I really, really, really rail against closed-mindedness. As an example, and this is part of the show, so this is kind of the intro into to the Luigi stuff. I want to point out that this has been a lifelong thing. When I was going to college at night, when I was working at a convenience store, I would literally read a liberal newspaper and a conservative newspaper together every single night and compare the stories, because I was sick and tired of how bad the spin was. You could read the same exact story in the Seattle PI, for example, and it read completely different than in my local Tri-City Herald, which was a very conservative paper. Same exact story, and you would think that two different things happened that day because the spin was so bad. Same thing with CNN and Fox News. And so I will sometimes watch both those channels to get a different take on things, especially if it's a big news story, a political news story. I grew up in a very conservative area. And when I was growing up in that conservative area, I became more liberal. The reason being is I rail against closed-mindedness. So when people were shitting all over liberals and saying they're horrible people because they're morons and idiots, I'll be like, you realize that they have PhDs in the liberal camp as well. Then when I moved to Seattle and I was in a big liberal city, I became more conservative because the opposite happened. And all the liberals over there were, I just got another restriction on YouTube, on TikTok. Not eligible for recommendations because it contains unoriginal reproduced content. I didn't even play anything. So apparently doing the window in window is going to get me shut down on TikTok. I'm just about done with TikTok, but I'm going to try to stay with it for you guys. So I'm going to figure out how to do that in the future. The TikTok is all over my ass. By the way, as an aside, TikTok has had me held at the same follower count for over a month. I know that's not even possible. I've had exactly 8,300 and something followers exactly for a month, which I've seen happen before. Every time somebody joins and subscribes to me as a new follower, they unfollow somebody so that my account stays the same. I have not been allowed to grow on TikTok because they've got my account suppressed. I can't get to the magic 10,000 number, which is necessary to put my stuff in playlists. So I can't improve myself on TikTok for you guys. They are completely suppressing me and shutting down my feed, giving me live restrictions every time I go live. And it's, so where I'm going with that is, for a while longer, I'm going to keep trying to make this work because there's such a good group of people on TikTok. But I can only handle this for so long. So YouTube is the place where I'm going. I'm long form content anyways. Please go and if you like my content, please consider moving to YouTube because I don't think TikTok is the place for me. They don't want me to be here. It looks like they're shutting me down. They're suppressing me. They're keeping me from growing, and they shut down my feed and restrict it every time I go live. Every time. Enough of that. All right. So. And in particular, where I was going back to my rant is the media in particular is very one-sided. Every time a mainstream media story comes out, they focus on the presumption of guilt. Almost every single time somebody's accused of something, the media will spin a bunch of documentaries and news stations, whatever, saying that the accused is the killer and there's no question before their first day of trial, which is part of the reason why this entire channel exists. Now, where I'm going with all that is I want to make sure that you understand that I try to keep a very balanced opinion and I look at both sides, which includes, unfortunately, for some of you, and not a lot. I've noticed that you guys are way more tolerant than I expected at first. Every once in a while, I'm afraid that when I say, like, for example, I have a large following who believes, for example, Luigi Mangione is innocent, right? And I always will maintain innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But if I analyze something that looks bad for Luigi Mangione, some people will accuse me, used to be some, and now it's even fewer, that would say, oh my gosh, Devil's Advocates has turned on Luigi. He now says that he's guilty. No, I'm telling you that if we are going to be critical thinkers and if we're going to keep an open mind, we have to listen to both sides of the argument. That's part of, and the reason why I'm going on this long-winded diatribe is there was a new video in the Idaho 4, which we'll get to after the Luigi stuff. There's a new video in the Idaho 4 that is worthy of considering, not necessarily from the Bryan Kohberger is guilty perspective, but discrediting perhaps some of those rumors that even I myself hold, or not rumors, conspiracy theories, if you will, that even I myself hold. And there's a really good video put out that we're going to cover, which shoots some of my own theories a little bit in the foot. But again, to be intellectually honest, we should look at it all. So we're going to do that. Some comments are coming in here. What are your thoughts on the group of people issuing an ethical complaint on Bondi? I'll have to get to that later. Right now, I'm going to do a whole bunch of actual monologue. We'll get back to questions and answers well late in the thing. So hopefully you'll stay with me. Again, I don't know how many people are going to be allowed to even come in here on the TikTok side. So anyways, we got a really low viewership, so let's just be informal and go with it. So my position on Luigi, just to be clear, my position on Luigi Mangione has not changed. He's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I have always said from the beginning, by the way, I've had one of the first videos I've ever done on Luigi Mangione was a video called something to the effect of the Luigi Shuffle. Or the game theory, which is the idea that did Luigi do what they're accusing him of doing with a group of individuals, and was he just somehow involved? Maybe not even the shooter, but maybe he was just involved. Somebody else could have pulled the trigger, and did Luigi Mangione take the fall for it, as agreed by a group of people or set up by a group of people? But I've entertained that idea for a long time, and I had reasons for believing that was a possibility. And I've covered it in multiple videos, and hopefully you've seen those. If not, you can check out YouTube and watch my video called The Game Theory. But the reason why I'm going there is, by the way, we had a prosecution's response recently, and I won't go over all the details in this case, but the point being is that Karen Agnifilo filed a motion with a bunch of requests to submit, suppress data or information, or it's not the right word, suppress evidence. There you go. Evidence. Wow. I don't know why I blanked out on that. That was obtained by what she was believing is an illegal arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That's a long story, but the point being is the prosecution in the state of New York did a huge response, and it was brutal. It was a huge response with new information about what they have on Luigi Mangione. And so basically, it's both of these documents are presented to a judge. So Karen presented to a judge her argument why they need to toss out a bunch of stuff against Luigi Mangione, her client. The prosecution responded to the judge, this is the reason why you should not consider tossing out any of the information about Luigi Mangione. And now a judge has to rule on it, and that's where we're at. Now, recently I did a long breakdown. It was an 82-page document, 82 pages. And I did a 3-hour review of that document, going through it in detail. And a lot of it was brutal. And I thought to myself, a lot of people are going to get mad. They're going to think I'm saying Luigi's guilty or whatever. But to my surprise, you guys understand this channel way better than I thought. And you're like, no, I understand. You're just looking at both sides of the coin. So it looked bad. Now, I will tell you this. From what I've gathered from both Cynthia Thornton, my attorney friend, who, by the way, it looks like she's in the room again as a bystander here in the room, and you should follow her account. She put a post in there about media's one-sided. So make sure if you're not following Cynthia Thornton that you grab her link right now, like, follow, all those things so that you can get her on your radar. We're going to hopefully work out a live together soon. But she, along with my other attorney friend now, Ali Benevento, who's been on my show several times as well, both of them said, hey, look, this response, and I'm kind of summarizing both of them, so hopefully I got both of them together in this. Both of them kind of said, look, this is the response of the prosecution is no surprise, right? Did anyone think that the prosecution was going to say, oh, you know what, Karen's right, we really probably overstated our case, throw out half the evidence, she was right, our bad. Like, there's no chance that was going to happen. So of course, the prosecution was going to come out with a very brutal document that basically said everything that Karen Agnifilo said is wrong. We should proceed with the trial with everything that we have. And so it wasn't a surprise. What was a surprise in a lot of ways to me was some of the new details, like exactly which bullet finished Brian Thompson, how it did, what its trajectory was, what bullets were fired and which ones weren't, what words were written on the bullets, in specifically which ones were written on the spent casings, which one was on the unspent. Like, there was a lot of details. The fact that, and I say fact loosely. Again, the facts will be argued in a court of law. But they stated that Luigi Mangione and Brian Thompson passed each other on the street the night before the shooting in a strange surprise thing. There was a lot of really surprising, interesting details. And again, I cover that in 3 hours, 3 one-hour episodes, breaking down the 82-page document. I wanted to say that, by the way, I asked Ali Benevento, and I want to be careful because I don't want to overstate, but I did tell her, I said, hey, I want to share with people something that you said, in our private conversation. And she said, absolutely, you're allowed to do that. So I have her permission to share with something that was said a little private, which was, I was asking her, how would you feel, if the prosecution's case is correct and Luigi Mangione is guilty and they've got all this great evidence on him and there's no question now. Like, there's a lot of people who are following this case because they believe Luigi Mangione didn't do it, wasn't there, he's being framed, whatever. And the prosecution made this big, strong argument, at least strong in the sense that's exactly what the prosecution has to do, is put their best foot forward and tell you that this is why this guy's guilty. They said, how would that change your opinion if this is true? And one of the things that I think Ali Benevento said that really, really struck home, and I told her, I want to quote you on this, is like, it doesn't change anything for a criminal defense attorney. As she stated, she's had plenty of clients confess to her that they did what they were accused of doing. It doesn't change the attorney's job. As she states, I'm not defending my client's conduct. I'm defending their constitutional rights. I'm defending the Constitution. A defense attorney's job isn't necessarily to say, oh, I gotta try to get this murderer off if I know he's a murderer. That's not what it's about. What it's about is making sure the judicial system, if I can say these words without slaughtering them, that the judicial system is playing fair, playing by the rules, and we are protecting our civil liberties and our constitutional rights, right? That's her job. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether the client you're defending is guilty or not. Your job is to make sure that the court proceedings don't violate your client's constitutional rights, and that we uphold the rule of law in this country. Meaning, and this is the part that I focus on all the time, it is not appropriate for law enforcement to plant evidence on you because they know you're guilty, to fabricate evidence, to break the law, to violate Miranda rights. All those things are not acceptable because the guy is guilty or because you know he's the bad guy. If we go down that slippery slope, everyone in America is in deep shit. Because if we allow law enforcement to decide for you who's guilty and who's not guilty, and then plant evidence on you or break your or violate your civil liberties to make you go down, no one's safe. And we rest on the principle in this country that it is better, in my opinion, we rest in this country on the principle that it is better for a guilty person to walk free of something that they did than for one person who's innocent to be put away for something they didn't do. To have their name and their character besmirched, to have everyone hate them and view them as a monster for something they didn't do is a worse crime than letting somebody, from time to time who did something get off on a technicality. This is the reason why the burden of proof is on the prosecution, why it's much harder for them, because we give the presumption of innocence to the defendant and we make it so that the state, who has all the resources in their back pocket and all the power in the country, they have a harder burden of proof. They have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And yes, it is stacked in some ways in favor of the defendant on purpose, because we would rather a guilty person from time to time go free than for one innocent person to go to jail. So I'm looking through my notes here. So Cynthia Thornton and I, by the way, Cynthia had a new, both Cynthia Thornton and Ali Benevento have new videos that came out. Ali Benevento, by the way, I found out from Ali, she's in TikTok jail as well. She posted a part 2 of her comments on the prosecution's response to Karen Agnifilo, and that video got flagged and pulled by TikTok. And she had to recut the video and not say what she wanted to say because TikTok won't let her say it. So again, it's a little ironic that I'm on TikTok bitching about TikTok, but really TikTok's out of control. TikTok right now is shutting down everyone that's talking about true crime. We're getting flagged left and right. We can't talk about the topics. The other night, by the way, as an example, since I already have a restriction, I'll still be careful about this. Ali and I were simply talking about people that try to smuggle in contraband to prisoners who are her clients. Do people try to smuggle in things to the clients? In discussing that, we used a bad word and they restricted us for talking about a controlled substance, when we were literally talking about the legal system and whether people try. It's just news, people, but TikTok can't handle it. It's okay. Enough. This is becoming a TikTok rant. All right. So for the most part, I wanted to say that in the Luigi case, I just want to reiterate, because some of you felt frustrated not a lot. To be fair, I had way more support than I thought we were going to have on that big 3-hour breakdown of the legal document response from the prosecution. But some of you thought, well, is devil's advocate saying Luigi Mangione is guilty? And I just want to take a step back. We look at things to be a critical thinker. You have to look at both sides, which is why I said when the prosecution says Luigi Mangione wrote these things and it's in his own words, and I repeatedly said, if it's true that Luigi wrote those things, then it looks like he did it, if he did. But I put the caveat many, many times, if he really wrote it. And to be honest with you, and to be honest with to be fair with the details, his attorneys have basically admitted that he did have a notebook in his possession and that it was his personal diary. So they've admitted to the diary. Now, they haven't necessarily admitted to what the prosecution says was written in the diary, and that may be the key point. So the question becomes, one, there's a whole lot of questions here, people. So I want to, before we move on to Coberger for the next half of this thing, I want to explain. We don't know that is going to stand up in the first place. I've talked to Ali a little bit about this as well, about what happens, for example, if Altoona, Pennsylvania, which still hasn't responded about whether or not the arrest of Luigi Mangione was legal in Pennsylvania. So if that arrest wasn't legal and a judge rules that it wasn't legal, then all of a sudden his so-called confession letter to the feds and his notebook that says essentially, yeah, I did it and here's why I did it, would not be admissible in court. And yet New York has already taken photographed pages of said notebook and confession letter and put it in their argument, right? So what happens if Altoona, and is that why we didn't get a ruling in Altoona, Pennsylvania? Because New York wanted to be able to put it in a document, and if it had already been ruled inadmissible, it'd be hard for them to put it in that document. So Pennsylvania has postponed long enough to allow New York to use the same information because no ruling has been made on it. So now essentially the cat is out of the bag, right? So now even if a judge in Altoona, Pennsylvania rules that was an illegal arrest, the damage is done. Everyone in the world got to see exactly what Luigi Mangione wrote, allegedly, because even if it was an illegal arrest and it's not allowed in a court of law in Pennsylvania, it still made it into New York's document. But I asked Ali, well, what does that mean? If it got tossed out in Pennsylvania, how are they allowed to talk about it in the document in New York? And basically the short answer of a legal thing was basically there's a process in which Karen Agnifilo would basically appeal to New York and say something to the effect, I don't know the legal terms, Cynthia's in here, maybe Cynthia knows the legal terms on this, would basically say something to the effect of, because Pennsylvania has already ruled this as an illegal arrest, basically New York should recognize that was an illegal arrest and do likewise. But they can handle it separately. Now, again, I would love to have my attorney friends in here to say it for themselves and explain it, but it is kind of two separate issues. So Pennsylvania could say it was an illegal arrest, and then technically it still has to be decided by New York whether it was an illegal, or whether you can use that information. But there's kind of a precedent, from I understand. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but there's kind of a precedent set that if one state and one court has tossed it out as illegal, it's pretty much that the others are going to follow suit. But I guess it's not a hard rule. All right. For the most part, we've covered, and we're 28 minutes in. For the most part, we've covered Luigi for tonight. I want to give an opportunity for a couple of quick questions about Luigi Mangione before we move on to Coberger for the next part, and then get into the mailbag, and then we'll close. Does anybody have some, excuse me, does anybody have some Luigi Mangione specific questions? I know at the start of this, people said, oh my gosh, devil's advocates, have you seen the video about so-and-so who stayed with Luigi? No, I have not seen that. I need to see that. If you can send me a link, fantastic. But you probably gave me enough that I can go find it. But I don't know about that, so I can't really comment on that. If they colluded to have Pennsylvania pause, is that allowed? That's a gray area. Again, was there some kind of behind the scenes agreement that the judge wouldn't rule in Pennsylvania that it was a legal or illegal arrest so that New York could put it in their document? It sure feels like it, but I don't know. Kimberly, fantastic. One of my mods on TikTok is going to send me the information that we're talking about the. Is it somebody that stayed at the hostel with Luigi Mangione allegedly? Is that what they're saying? Is that somebody who stayed at the hostel? I'm just curious. But anyways, I'm going to get that and I'll be able to speak to that later. A cellmate. Okay, his original cellmate or current cellmate. Perfect. We're going to get that at MDC. Okay, so yes, not the hostel kind of situation. I still have questions about the roommates in hostel. Somebody says, Lee, you need to stop caring about. I'm going to put that on screen. So, Lee, you need to stop caring what people think. If you don't understand the concept, meaning of devil's advocates or playing the devil's advocate, then like, damn, they lost the plot. Thank you. Thank you, brutally honest, for being brutally honest. I appreciate that. I will try my best. I get picked on a lot for being overly apologetic. It's something I've done my entire life. I am working on it, and trust me, YouTube is quickly making me get a thicker skin. The insults and the way I'm spoken to on here is brutal. So I'm quickly learning to put a lot of that fluff aside. All right. Any other questions about Luigi Mangione before we move on to Idaho 4 and the case there at Coberger? Just giving it a minute, a hot minute. Okay. It looks like we're going to move on. Now, again, for those who are Luigi followers, if you want to, meaning you're following the Luigi case, if you want to, I am going to have mail from the Luigi case after we get done with. Thank you so much, Jeremy Pearson, for the gift on the YouTube side. I appreciate that extremely much. Thank you very, very, very much. That's awesome. Thank you. Perfect. So I want to tell you that again, when I get to the mail thing, we're going to cover both Luigi and whatever. But Cynthia, by the way, is not coming on tonight. I asked her earlier if she could, because she just did a little take on the Luigi case, but tonight's not a good night for her to come on. So I don't think she's going to be hanging out super long. And we'll get her on as soon as we possibly can. Now. So we're moving on to Bryan Kohberger. Now, before you get ready to shoot me, I know, brutally honest, stop apologizing. I'm working on it. And yet, before you get ready to shoot me, I watch a lot of, how do I say this? I don't watch daily a bunch of different YouTubers, but I do follow a lot of accounts and things pop up. And when I see something interesting that catches my attention, I grab it. So there's a particular YouTuber, you know the name, Gray Hughes Investigates, who came out with a new 3D model reenactment of what happened that night in the Idaho 4 case. And it's worth discussing. And so I want to do that tonight. And I want to say, despite how you feel about Gray Hughes Investigates, please consider showing respect to the man. People, it's brutal for me to watch people shit on Gray Hughes Investigates like they shit on me, because I feel his pain. There are people who are brutal. So please be kind, because I want to point out, this guy admitted to, and I know it's a fact, I did the same thing 12 years ago with another shooting where I tried to reenact the shooting and build a 3D model. And it took me so many hours to build a 3D model of a theater, of a movie theater where a shooting happened. You may know the case I'm talking about. So, Gray Hughes Investigates, which, by the way, let me see if I can put this on screen for you. I'm going to add something to the stage here real quick. Okay, so it's not going to be quick. And maybe I should put it in this format. Yeah. Now, if you're looking at... Am I not... I got to put the right thing to the stage. Here we go. Give me a second. There we go. And add to the stage. That sucker does not want to go. There we go. This is from Gray Hughes Investigates. You guys can see it on TikTok. It's going to be super small. But this is a link for Gray Hughes Investigates. I could click. Well, here, I'm going to open it in a new tab. There you go. Gray Hughes Investigates. Please, again, whether you believe in this, whether you like this guy's style or whatever, if I'm going to show you his 3D enactment. which is down here. If you look, look at that. There's breaking Coberger animation preview, 360 Coberger. He's built a 3D model of the house. And here's where I'm having a problem with Gray Hughes Investigates. Before we get started on breaking it down a little bit, is he believes, of course, that Bryan Kohberger is guilty, and repeatedly tells you Coberger then did this, and Coberger then did that, and and here you see Coberger doing this. That part I take exception to. Better so would be to say, this is what I believe the person who did this may have done. Here you see the perpetrator did this, or the alleged killer did this. But saying Coberger over and over again, Coberger walked up the stairs, Coberger stabbed this person, Coberger did this, is just as prejudicial as mainstream media. Coberger hasn't had his day in trial. And yes, he has every right, just like I do, to state his opinion that he believes Coberger did it. I'm saying for myself, and it's my opinion, that I will presume innocence until proven guilty, and I will accept the possibility that Coberger did do it. I will also accept the possibility that half a dozen other people could have done it. There are people with way better motives, in my opinion, than Bryan Kohberger. So let's wait till the facts come out. Now, when I show you what I want to show you, if you haven't seen this 3D enactment, is I want you to focus on several things. I'm trying to figure out where to go with this. What I want to show you is that I have said, even myself, I take exception with the idea that the killer could have killed 4 people in about 8 to 10 minutes. That's the window that I've got that I think is reasonable. 13 minutes, I think, is the max it could have been, but it's more like 8 to 10, and kill 4 people on 2 floors in about 8 to 10 minutes and get out of the house without tracking any blood of the victims out to the house. I've said that I think that's virtually impossible. In addition, we've looked at court documents that show that an expert has come on for the defense and said that they have an alternative suspect other than Bryan Kohberger, and that it may have been more than one individual that did it and using more than one weapon, which I said makes perfect sense because I don't think the timeline fits. Now, Jeremy Pearson, I agree. No chance in hell, right? I get it. But let me show you, and I will counter it a little bit. I'm going to show you Gray Hughes Investigates timeline on this. And to be fair, to be perfectly fair, it feels like it could have been done if you watch this. Now, keep in mind, this is a perfect, this would be a perfect scenario. Everything went right. Nothing surprised you. This went down exactly, and there's no surprises. Yet the timing that, and I'll show you it, has all 4 killings happening in the span of about 3 minutes and 52 seconds, under 4 minutes, leaving another good 4 minutes or so for some of that cleanup that we're talking about. So the question becomes, is it realistic? So I want you to watch this with me. Now, one of the things that I think that I've done safely is I'm sharing the screen and not the actual tab. If I played the tab, it would be playing audio, and then we'd run issues of spending too much time positive enough for stealing his stuff. Although I want to say, Gray Hughes Investigates has asked people, please share my video, please share my reenactment, please share it. I'm sharing it. I'm just maybe not sharing it the way that he does. Now I want to point out, as you're watching on the screen, he's done, look at the time down below on the screen, 3 minutes and 3:30 in the morning and 26 seconds. This rolls continuously on his video. He actually drove the alleged path of the white Elantra. Now, let's stop for a minute. I'm going to let this roll while we're talking. We don't know Bryan Kohberger was driving the Elantra. We don't even know if it's one Elantra. What he did, though, is he took his own car. This is him driving out the front of his window and timing the route exactly the way that the prosecution has said it's going. You will see him, and he drives through the neighborhood. Then he cuts away, as you see, to the actual surveillance footage and their timestamps, and then he's back to his own car, places where it went off camera. So that's what's going on here in the video. You see that he's showing his own car versus what the surveillance video caught, and it's all timing. This timing runs the entire time. All right, let's stop for a minute just in case while I'm running that we run into a copyright thing because I'm spending too much time. Fair use allows me to talk and comment on it as we go along. Now, what I want to show you as he goes along, he's going to pull up at a place where he says the car basically pulls up right next to the house. Here it comes. We're going to pause right here. And he sits here, he says, for about a minute or so, according to the official prosecution. Now, if you look in this video, you'll see off to the left-hand side over here, there's some crime scene tape. This was shot about 1 year after the events, before they tore down the house. So the building that you're seeing right in front of you, I do not believe is the 1122 King residence where the murders happened. It's actually to the left of us, where that crime scene tape is and where that tree's at. That house is boarded up and the lights are off. The house hasn't been torn down yet. But what he's pointing out is, if the perpetrator in the event was driving that car and he parked here for about a minute, and he can literally look in the window of the bathroom of the upstairs floor where Maddie and Kaylee were at, and you could see into the bathroom window, perhaps even her bedroom window from this thing. And again, he says that the perpetrator sat here for quite some time, and then he goes through and he does a bunch of passes, and he shows the route where he goes through, and he goes through multiple passes. He talks about the timing of the DoorDash driver coming in somewhere here around 4 o'clock in the morning and surprising him. Multiple times the car stops here beside the house as if watching the house. Now, again, a theory you could ask yourself is the perpetrator, if that really is happening, is the perpetrator looking for the lights to go off upstairs? Is he waiting for a moment when everybody's in bed? So driving by, maybe there's a bathroom light on. He's waiting for the bathroom light to go out, making circle until 4 o'clock in the morning ish, when the light goes out. Now everybody's in bed. Something like that could have been happening. It could explain. And again, he's doing this drive-by. This guy spent a lot of time. And again, I don't agree with all of his theories, but for frick's sake, give the guy credit. This guy's done a lot of work. And regardless of how you feel about it, you should at least give him a thumbs up or a like or a comment on his video to say, hey, I watched your video, good stuff. I don't agree with your opinion. If you feel free to tell him, just don't, that's fine. But help him out a little bit, because the guy spent over 50 hours making the 3D animation that we're going to watch. Now, continuing on, he even talks about a scenario in which maybe the killer, I'm not going to say Coberger, and here's like a picture of a Greek house out there in the distance as he's going through the neighborhood, because we're near the Greek Row, that he was surprised by the DoorDash driver and did a 3-point turnaround and came back and basically, had to deal with that whole surprise. This is where the plan is going awry. I didn't expect the DoorDash driver to be delivering something at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of the theory that we have. The key part that we really want to get to is at 17 minutes and 50 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and scan by here. And so these are previews of him where he's talking about, here's the people. I'm going to explain it to you rather than go through this, because what he does is he does a lot of talking and a lot of pausing on the video, and then he rolls it at the end at 17 minutes and 50 seconds without his narration. So I'm going to tell you what you're going to see without his narration, and then I'm going to play it for you. Okay, so I'm going to back up just a hair. All right. Now, let me tell you the key points that we're going to see. Again, his video runs for about 3 minutes and 52 seconds, so almost 4 minutes. And you be the judge, being open-minded. Is this something that can happen? And I'm going to put this full screen so we have a little bit better chance to see it. And I'm going to explain to you some things that you're going to see on the video. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to explain what you're going to see. I'll actually talk over it a little bit as well. I'm not going to play the music, even though the music makes it even creepier. I will also tell you this. Even though this is a 3D recreation of the event, it has walking figures, it has 3D animated models, it has people representing human beings, and it depicts a vicious attack. He has blurred it out, but you can tell enough what's going on. You can see hand swings, you can see a knife, you see things that could be, as they say, disturbing for some viewers. So this, even though it's a 3D model, it's possible for you in your head to be traumatized a little bit by this, knowing what happened to the victims in the house, and then seeing this 3D model, which will make it even more real for you. And I do this with the caveat, because again, once you see something in your mind like this, then your mind starts to believe that's exactly how it happens. And there's a danger of that we're prejudicing ourselves by watching somebody say, this is how it happened. I want to also point out that Gray Hughes Investigates a model is based off of Dateline NBC's enactment. Dateline NBC said, here's what we think happened. That's what he's going to depict. And he's going to show his opinion about how it can happen in 4 minutes, exactly as Dateline NBC said. So I want you to point out, I'm going to point out several things in here to look for, and then I'll also point them out when we're going through it. You're going to see in this video the killer come through the sliding glass door again, I'm not going to say Coberger like he says in the video. You're going to see the killer come through the sliding glass door, go up the stairs to Maddie and Kaylee's room, where some people believe the killer was going for Maddie. He knew it was Maddie's room, didn't necessarily know Kaylee was even there. I have reasons to question that whole narrative, but let's just go with the thing. The killer then starts to attack Maddie and Kaylee, who are laying in bed. And you see it again, and he blurs it out, but it's going to be a little bothersome for some people. So if this kind of thing is a little bit much for you, don't watch. But again, there's no blood. It's just animations, and it's mostly just your vivid imagination that can take over if you haven't seen this. So that's going to be a little creepy. And then you're going to see a woman in a white shirt coming out of the bedroom. That's representing Xana Kernodle, which according to Dateline NBC, Xana Kernodle was in the kitchen when she heard a disturbance upstairs. So you're going to see Xana Kernodle on this video come out of her bedroom and go into the kitchen, just casually strolling to the kitchen to go drop off her Jack-in-the-Box that she had delivered by DoorDash into the kitchen. Then you're going to see that she notices on the video, she's going to turn and she's going to notice the sliding glass door open, that the killer came through, and then she's going to hear some sounds. And it's going to cut back and forth to showing what's happening upstairs. But again, his depiction of how this is how it could have happened. It'll flash back to the killing that's happening still upstairs, the reenactment, and then back to Xana, who's looking up and hearing something, and she goes up this flight of stairs. Casually, not fast, nothing sped up in this video, casually goes upstairs. The killer has finished what he's doing. She comes upon the killer. He then notices her, they go eye to eye, and then he follows her down the stairs. Now, to be fair, even more so to this argument, Gray Hughes investigates, has Xana walking down the stairs and the killer walking down after her, and then a little bit of running across the floor to the bedroom. So if the whole thing was a run, it could have happened even faster, right? So let's keep that in mind. Then it's going to show this person, it's going to show Dylan several times. It's going to show a woman in kind of shorts in her room by herself, opening a door. So you're going to see several times in this video, and I'll try to explain that's Xana, that's Dylan, according to the reenactment. This is a reenactment. It's just him saying, like I do, playing devil's advocates, if it happened, could it have happened like this? That's what this is. This is a thought experiment, and I thought it was worth watching. Fantastic work on his part, regardless of what you feel about the conclusion. It's really good stuff, and it's disturbing. So Dylan opens the door several times. You'll see that the attack happens on Xana. You'll see Xana drop to the floor in her room. Then you'll see that the killer will move to Ethan, who's laying in bed, and spends some time. And you've heard the graphic detail of that Dateline NBC added that his legs were carved up. You see a little bit of that, but it's again blurred out, but it's going to be in your mind if you know the details that Dateline said, and that's going to be a little disturbing. And then you're going to see the individual who's the killer sit down in a chair as if he's exhausted. It's a very, very brief moment where he sits down, and they depict it in the video on Dateline NBC that the killer may have been exhausted. It's an adrenaline dump. So he just did something. He's exhausted. And adrenaline is, and so he has to take a moment to sit down. He takes a moment to sit down. Now here's where things get a little weird. The recreation depicts the killer then going to the bathroom to do cleanup. And he even said, the only reason I have this in here is because there's been suggestions in the court documents that there was evidence of a cleanup of some kind. So he literally just said, I'm going to show him going to the bathroom and maybe washing his hands, whatever. That probably is unrealistic. That's probably not what happened. But he accounts for some time showing the killer go to the bathroom. That's what you're going to see, to do cleanup for a little bit. Meanwhile, here's a detail that I don't remember catching anywhere in any documentary, but he shows Xana hasn't been finished. Gosh, this is brutal. Hasn't been finished, and she stands back up in the bedroom, alerting the killer who's cleaning up in the bathroom, and so he goes back after her and finishes her off again a second time. Then you see the killer walk out of the house. You see Dylan open the door. You even see what might look like a plausible reason to believe why the killer may not have even seen Dylan, but Dylan saw him. And you'll see two quick views, Dylan's view as depicted from the killer's perspective walking past Dylan, and then you'll see a cutaway of Dylan looking at the killer as he walked by. That's extra time that's added in the video, by the way, to watch the two different perspectives for a couple seconds of what it looked like from the killer's perspective walking by Dylan, and what it looked like from Dylan's perspective seeing the killer walk by her and seeing maybe the one bushy eyebrow. right? And then basically the killer leaves, and that's the end. Now, let me tell you a couple of flaws for this video right off the bat before we watch it, and then I will play it for you. I'm not going to pause the video because I want you to watch the timing, and I want you to feel the sensation of the timing and decide for yourself, could this have been done? Could it have happened this way? I want to point out one more thing. Even if it could happen this way, it doesn't mean the killer is Bryan Kohberger. It could be anyone. So just keep that in mind. Even if the video to you satisfies your belief that it could have been done by one person in 4 minutes, it doesn't mean Bryan Kohberger is the person that did it. That's a whole different issue. And let me say one more thing that it doesn't account for. His video does not account for the time it takes the killer to go from his car into the house, or from getting out of the house back to his car, or the cleanup that would be necessary to make it so that no blood got tracked out of the house. That's not accounted for. That's extra time. But again, to be fair with his argument, if you got the whole thing happening in 4 minutes, you've got a good extra 5 or 6 minutes to get out of clothes and whatever. So it could be plausible. All right. You guys ready? We're going to go through the roll of his video. Again, I'm not going to play it with the creepy music, which makes it even worse, but it is going to be a little creepy for you. I'm going to talk over it a little bit just to point out key points. But I don't want to pause it because I don't want to mess the timing up. All right, here we go. No, I can't click that. I got to click this. So here he's just kind of ending the drive-by. Here it is. Killer comes in through the sliding glass door. Turns, walks up the stairs. Going to Maddie's bedroom. There's a double kind of turn on the stairs. It goes up one flight and then up another flight. Turns to the bedroom. There's the two of them in bed. And now the attack begins, and it's blurred out, but you can see the action. So there's a struggle. He's depicting a struggle. There's Dylan. There's Xana walking out of her bedroom, unbeknownst to what's going on, going to the kitchen with her bag of Jack in the Box, strolling leisurely. She notices the sliding glass door open. There's Dylan in her room. There's an open sliding glass door. Xana hears something upstairs. The attack's still happening. Xana's alerted. There's still noise. There's a commotion, so she's heading up the stairs to investigate. Takes some time. The attack's still happening. Xana's still on her way up the stairs. Dylan looks out because she hears some noise. So she hears something, but she doesn't see anything. Attack's happening upstairs. She looks around. Nothing's going on. Goes back into her room. Now the killing's done on the third floor, and Xana walks in on it. They meet eye to eye. Killer allegedly drops the knife sheath because he's surprised by her. And they got it casually going, chasing her down the stairs. She runs back to her room. And then the attack happens in her doorway. Dylan looks out while the attack's happening in Xana's room, but doesn't perhaps have a good view of it. Closes her door, doesn't know what's happening. Attack's happening. As you can see, there's a struggle. There's a fight. Xana drops. Dylan sits back down. She doesn't know what's going on. She's drunk. That's what they say. Now he's working on Ethan in that depiction. There's some time spent on that. Still working with Ethan. And now he's exhausted. And he takes a moment to sit down, according to the Dateline NBC piece. Dylan's there just kind of hanging out. She doesn't know what to think. And now he's going to go clean up. So he goes to the kid. They again depicted the bathroom. That's not details. It's just him reenacting the idea that there was some time spent cleaning up. Now, where this detail comes in, I don't know. He's got Xana waking back up again or whatever, that she wasn't actually finished off. And so he goes back for Xana a second time. I don't know about that detail. So here's Xana getting back up off the floor. And he notices that she's getting back up off the floor. So he goes back after her and drops her in the floor there again, and then walks away. As he walks away, Dylan opens the door. Sees him walking past. Maybe he didn't notice her in the dark room, dark hallway. Now it shows her perspective of what she would have saw as he walked past her. And out the sliding glass door. So that's it. And again, when you look at that, I ask myself, okay, is that realistic? Because before I would say there's no way in hell one guy did all of that in 4 minutes or whatever, like they're trying to say. But you ask yourself, did it feel watching it like that was adequate time? The depiction of the struggle even and the fight and the victims that were fighting back, did it feel like it was enough time? If you factor in that people were drunk and or some of, maybe Ethan was still sleeping, maybe he wasn't, Maddie was sleeping. We know for sure from what we've been told that Kaylee did wake up, so there was a struggle there, but he's depicted that. We know Xana for sure struggled and he depicted that. No, he did not. So I don't think he accounted for the number of wounds, and I don't know that that's been publicly released or not. So I don't know that he covered the number of wounds. Somebody asked that from TikTok. So I'm going to go here and pull up a comment from YouTube. I can appreciate Gray Hughes's graphics. The problem with Gray is he doesn't take kindly to alternative theories. No joke. He'll instantly get hostile. He surely ain't got the devil's advocate mindset. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't expect him to be kind with me if we ever have a conversation about it. But I will be kind to him and say, the dude spent a lot of time on this, and it's deserving of your consideration, in my opinion. So kudos to him, whether he likes alternative theories or not. I thought it was well done. So again, there's things that aren't accounted for. Like changing out of clothes that would be required to not track blood, in my opinion, out to the car or anywhere outside of the house. That's not depicted in there at all. There is evidence in court documents that multiple weapons are used. That is not depicted in there at all, multiple weapons being used. There was graphics depictions in some places about what the victims went through, including the number of wounds. That's not necessarily depicted. Time is depicted. Could the timing fit? I don't know. Let's put something else here. I agree one person could do this, but in this particular case, I don't believe so. I think they were taken out at different times, and I believe multi-perp case in this case, different injuries, etc. Yeah, I have to agree. I still fundamentally believe it was more than one person. I still fundamentally believe that other people have bigger motives, far bigger motives than Bryan Kohberger. And so again, I wanted to show it to you just for you to be able to say, does it make sense to you or not? So what I want to do now is I want to cover some of those mail, and we'll close for the night. And then we're going to go to the backstage party, which I have to queue up still. And let me put that ahead of time on the screen a little bit before we go to the mailbag. So I'm going to put this on screen. Let's show that, and let's go full screen with it. So if you want to be part of the After Dark party that's coming up, this is the channel address for Discord. You can use your web browser to do that, and you can get into the audio, and you can take a mic with us, or you can keep silent if you want and just chat in the chat room. But you can do that. Also, the account on YouTube is my backstage account, Devil's Advocates Backstage. That's a non-monetized channel that will not get penalized for us being a little vulgar, a little rude, and perhaps having a few drinks together in the After Dark party. So if you want to join into that, take a peek at that right now. So I'll bring this back up at the end, but I want to cover some mail from the mailbag. This is a new concept I'm trying to play with. So let's take a look at my little graphic showing Neon60 says, yep, prosecution is, this is Luigi case now. The prosecution is opening the door themselves, clowns, unless they are doing it deliberately because they also love Luigi and want to let him go free. Now, let me explain what she's talking about. I mentioned in a video that in my long form videos that it's ironic in a way that the prosecution is mentioning how this was a targeted attack, Luigi Mangione. I know we're shifting gears. Maybe I should have did the Coberger stuff first, but we're shifting gears. We'll come back to Coberger. I probably did that wrong. But anyways, we're going to do this. Anyways, in the Luigi Mangione case, I said, Karen Agnifilo, the question is going to be, is Karen Agnifilo going to try to do a my client wasn't there, he's innocent, and she's going to fight every piece of, handwriting analysis and facial recognition, and she's going to fight all that? Or is there any possibility that she's going to do a basic defense of others kind of thing and say, yeah, he did it, but here's why he did it, and it's justifiable homicide? And then I said, no judge is going to allow her to do that with the justifiable homicide argument, because they'll say, look, the prosecution is going to say, Your Honor, the healthcare system's not on trial here. Luigi Mangione is on trial, and so we object. And more than likely, a judge is going to say, sustained, because the healthcare system's not on trial. And yet, the prosecution put out an entire motive that the reason why Luigi Mangione killed Brian Thompson was because he was trying to fix the healthcare system in America. If they're going to bring that into court, they themselves have opened the door to having a discussion about the healthcare system being put on trial, because that's what their motive is. They're literally going, the motive for Luigi Mangione to do the murder is because he was trying to fix the healthcare system in America through his, perverted belief systems. So now you've opened the doorway for them to bring the healthcare system on trial, in my opinion. So, and then the other part of her comment that I want to mention, and I'm going to run a little long because I usually get out at 7, and we're going to be a little late tonight because I want to get through this mail if I can. The other thing that she brings up is maybe it was deliberate. Maybe they brought it in deliberately because they also want him to go free. There is a small argument that the government, if you read the book An American Sickness, and I have a whole book series on YouTube called Luigi's Bookshelf, where we are reading the book An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal, written over 10 years ago, about how bad healthcare is in America. And Luigi Mangione allegedly in this letter, a confession letter, said, hey, look, people should educate themselves on how bad the healthcare system is by reading An American Sickness. We are reading An American Sickness. We are almost done with that book on my book series. I think I got one more video to make, maybe 2, and then we're done reviewing the book. But one of the things I pointed out in the book is over and over and over again, the doctor who wrote the book American Sickness has pointed out that the American government has tried to fix the out-of-control health insurance industry and healthcare system for a long time. And every time they pass laws to protect citizens against the predatory health system, the health system finds ways to circumnavigate the law. And so there's a small possibility in that conspiracy mind world of keeping an open mind that the federal government themselves may want something to be done black ops style to change healthcare in America. Because if the healthcare system is so big that the government can't even shut them down, maybe there's a scenario in somebody's mind that the government would hire a hit to take out a CEO of healthcare and then do a shoddy trial to make it look like they're trying to get the bad guy, but maybe they're purposely blundering the case over and over again, because in the end, they don't really want the guy to go down for it. What they want to do is they want to put the healthcare system on trial, and they want to fix the problem. It sounds crazy. It sounds way out there, but I thought it was worth discussing because that comment from Neanne brought that to my mind. And I'm like, that's a perfect opportunity to talk about that. Let's do another mailbag thing. So this user says, we know how worried he was about the McDonald's worker getting heat for turning him in. Would he be worried about the accomplices getting caught, so he purposely is leaving evidence so they don't get caught? So this goes to a new detail that came out in the prosecution's document, which stated that Luigi Mangione allegedly left chewing gum, chewed chewing gum in his backpack, literally handing the feds, if you will, his DNA. So when you factor in that the shooter used bare hands on the gun despite wearing a mask, so these are the key things. If you believe in the idea that somebody wants to have you finger the wrong guy, you cover your face so you can't see the face, and then you show cameras showing your fingers touching the weapons, leaving chewing gum at a place so that everything looks like we've got this guy dead to rights. We've got his fingerprints, we've got his DNA, saliva, we've got his fingers on the cell phone. This guy's dead to rights, but yet you don't have his face. So now the question is, yeah, you've got DNA, but do you have DNA of the shooter? That's the $1 million question. Or did somebody else plant evidence for the scene so that you would pick the wrong guy? So there's a scenario where that happens. And then the question is, that's what she's asking. is like, if Luigi Mangione is so concerned at his arrest that his first concern is, hey, I hope the McDonald's worker who called me in isn't going to get repercussions for this. Is it possible that he also is worried about his accomplices and purposely took the fall so that others wouldn't get fall for what happened, because he's willing to take the fall for everybody? So yeah, like Kimberly said, it's almost like Luigi wanted to get caught. But Kimberly, and I know you're going, and like, I'm not questioning you. This is a rhetorical question because I know you've already thought this out. It's like he wants to get caught using bare hands and putting chewing gum at the scene and leaving his DNA all over the place. And yet he goes on the run for 5 days. If you want to get caught, why not just stay there with your confession letter and your hands up in the air and wait for police to come arrest you? Why go on the run? Why evade for 5 days? Why do all that if you wanted to get caught? That's the part that doesn't make sense. Which one is it? Right? Or don't wear a mask so that there's no question. So one has to ask, did he want to get caught or did he not want to get caught? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Something here is deeper on this story than we know, in my opinion. That's why it's so fascinating to me, on top of the fact that it's fascinating from a human interest state on the whole healthcare system in America. Another letter on Luigi. We got 2 more letters of Luigi and then 4 on Coberger, and then we're out. So this user says, just watched, getting out of the police SUV. Okay, so he's talking about Luigi Mangione not being the shooter. He says you watch him get out of the police SUV. He's tall as the vehicle compared to the shooter video that captures him stepping up on the sidewalk. There's an SUV right there too to compare to. Whoever the shooter is, he's short, period. Luigi is 6 foot. He's taller than most of the people that escorted him when he got out of the New York from the chopper. So what he's saying is, if you look at the videos, Luigi's a tall guy. He's 6 foot something. He towers over the people who are even arresting him. And there's an SUV by Luigi Mangione for you to compare his height, what a 6 foot something person looks next to an SUV. And yet the shooter also is next to an SUV. And it shows that the 2 guys are 2 different sizes, 2 different heights. So he's pointed that out. Other people have pointed out the shoe sizes are different. It may be, people, it may possibly be that the shooter is a different person than Luigi Mangione. So we have to ask ourselves the question. Now, again, I don't go down these rabbit holes too far, which is why I'm leaving it in the mailbag, because I'm probably not going to do a full video on this, but it's worth discussing in the mailbag. So thank you for this user bringing that up. One more on Luigi. So what is still not clear is why he effectively made no effort to cover his tracks, implying he didn't care about getting caught. He wore masks nonstop, according to fellow hostel guests, yet he wore no gloves for the act and left a phone and even chewing gum, for crying out loud. These actions contradict one another. So yeah, we're beating a dead horse here because I forgot that I had this one queued up, but this is exactly our point. At the hostel, Luigi Mangione, the roommates who stayed with him said he never took his mask off the entire time at the hostel. He even ate his food in his room while wearing his mask. So one has to ask, why is Luigi Mangione, if it really is Luigi Mangione, hiding his face and not even taking his mask off to eat in a room with just a couple of roommates, and yet leaves his fingerprints and his DNA and his chewing gum all over the scene so that we know who the killer is? That makes no effing sense. Something doesn't add up. It's like somebody wants you to finger the wrong guy. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like to me. It's like they want you to finger the wrong guy. All right, let's go to 4 emails about Coberger and then we're out. This is Coberger now. There's no doubt in my mind Brent Kopaka must have gone to BK's high school to do a presentation and recruitment event to high schoolers about entering the Army. Bryan's high school yearbook, quote, states that after graduation, his goal was to become an Army Ranger. Brent was an Army Ranger. Now, it's a really cool thing worth investigating, but there's some corrections we need to make. So let me put something on stage here. Let me remove this. And let me bring this up. And again, I'm not trying to pick on my consider, but I want to point this out. All right. So, and I need to kill this audio on this thing right here. Okay. So this is an article that was published January 4, 2023. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger was wanted to be an Army Ranger, yearbook reveals. So that part's true. Coberger is aspiring Army Ranger and is featured in high school yearbook, exercising in uniform. It talks about he's, you know, here he is as a teenager, and he's wants to be an Army Ranger. That's what this article basically says a bunch of times. He wanted to be an Army Ranger. Army Rangers are a premier infantry force, is a branch of elite special operation forces, according to the U.S. Army's website. Army Rangers specialize in conducting raids and assault missions deep inside enemy territory. Now, if you don't know who Brent Kohberger is, we're not going to go into huge detail about this. But one thing I want to make a correction on: we don't know for sure that Brent Kohberger was a Ranger. In fact, we don't believe he's a Ranger. He was an airborne. He was 82nd Airborne, and he was elite. He was a paratrooper. That made him an elite forces, but he's not special forces. So special forces is like Rangers. Elite forces is you can be one and also a Ranger, but he wasn't a Ranger that we know of. There's no documentation that we know of that he was a Ranger. But it's interesting because there are connections between Bryan Kohberger and Brent Kohberger possibly having known each other before in Pennsylvania. So that was Bryan Kohberger here as a teenager in Pennsylvania, aspiring to be an Army Ranger. Brent Kohberger may have actually been living in that area at the time and was an Army paratrooper. Now this was 2011, and Brent Kohberger was out of the military in 2009. So the timing, you know, he could have. The theory that she's making is Brent Kohberger could have come to the high school and inspired Kohberger to become an Army Ranger himself, based on, you know, seeing somebody come and give a presentation at the school. That's all speculation. It is interesting, but I want to point out we don't know that Brent Kohberger was actually a Ranger. We do know he's a paratrooper. So enough of that. Let's go back to this. Is this the one we just did? Okay, so this is a new user calling me out on my, I did a video, by the way. I did a video on 23 different theories about the Idaho 4 murders and my ranking of how likely I think they could be true or not true. This user says, you're 100% incorrect. Do you know the facts from the Dateline show? Your number one reason for the murders, that was my number one on my list when I was ranking them, you stated that Kaylee was the target because her wounds were the worst, and actually Madison's wounds were the worst. I take exception with this. I don't want to be mean to my guest, but I think that I have seen nothing at all that indicates Maddie's wounds were the worst. I've seen multiple sources indicating Kaylee Gonzalez's wounds were the worst of everyone in the house. So this person does two problems, in my opinion. One, they're telling me everything I said is incorrect because somehow Dateline had the facts. Dateline may have had some facts, but if you watch Dateline's episode carefully, multiple times they say, we don't know if Coberger did this, but if he did, here's why he did it. And we don't know if this is how it's happened, but this is what we think happened that night. We don't know, but this is what we think. They said that over and over again. So this user says, you're incorrect. Didn't you see the facts from the episode? There's not a lot of facts there. There's a lot of speculation, and they even say so a lot of the times in there. Second of all, there is no evidence that I have seen anywhere that says Maddie's wounds were the worst. Kaylee's were the worst. That wasn't incorrect. So she says, I'm wrong. Kaylee's wounds were not as bad as Maddie's. That's not, I don't think I was wrong. I'm going to stick by my guns for the moment. I don't think I'm wrong. If you guys find I'm wrong, please let me know so I can stop saying incorrect shit. But I just wanted to call that one out. And it's not a hit piece on her. It's just to let you guys know some of the facts that she's bringing up and whether or not those are facts or not. Let's go to another email, 2 more emails, and we're out for tonight. And then we'll go to that after dark party. This user says, no, AT, that's Ann Taylor, was never Xana's mother's attorney. Her mother said she was mistaken. It was from the offices of Ann Taylor. She never met or spoke with Ann Taylor. An attorney that worked under Ann Taylor represented her. This has gone around for too long, being that it's incorrect. All right, fair. Let's talk about this. I think it's important because there's people out there who are going to feel that these rumors that because it's on my list of 22 different conspiracy theories out there about the murders, one of which is about the family that turned state's evidence and that how Ann Taylor was one of their attorneys, and how there's a conflict of interest that Ann Taylor is representing Bryan Kohberger when she represented one of the victim's family's mothers, actually 2 of the victim family's mothers, one of which being Xana Kernodle, which this user is saying that never happened. Now let's take a look at a couple of articles I want to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and put this off screen, and I'm going to bring up this. This is an article from Inside Edition, early on January 24, 2023. Bryan Kohberger's attorney represented the mother of murder victim Xana Kernodle. Big headline, right? So she's saying, you're wrong. That didn't happen. Quit repeating bullshit. Well, here's Inside Edition saying Bryan Kohberger's attorney represented the mother of murder victim Xana Kernodle. Let's look at a couple things. Court records obtained by Inside Edition show that on January 5th, Ann Taylor withdrew as counsel from Kara Kernodle, the mother of Xana Kernodle. The public defender who was representing Bryan Kohberger in the murder trial had previously been assigned the case involving one of the alleged victim's parents. Court records obtained by Inside Edition show that on January 5th, Ann Taylor withdrew as counsel from Kara Kernodle, the mother of Xana Kernodle. So partly what we're saying is here, she was on record as being the attorney for Karen Kernodle. That's not incorrect. Now, it is correct. We will see, and as you go through the fine details carefully, that Ann Taylor said she never met Kara Kernodle. The very same day, a judge appointed Taylor as Kohberger's public defender. Taylor had been representing Kara. Now, this is the kicky part. Taylor had been representing Kara for over a month after her arrest on November 19th in Kootenai County, just a few days after her daughter's murder. She is charged with 2 felonies. So here it indicates on this paragraph that Ann Taylor had been representing Kara for a month. There seems to be a one-day overlap when she's like, hey, I'm just going to quickly not represent this person anymore. She is charged with 2 felony counts of possession of controlled substance, blah, 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 blah. And there was one other comment I wanted to get. Kara and her new attorney did not respond to comments. There was a brief period of overlap with the 2 clients where the court records show Taylor was appointed as Kohberger's counsel on the morning of January 5th and then filing a substitution of counsel brief in the Kernodle case later. I think that's the key points there, but here's where I want to get to it. This headline, Bryan Kohberger's public defender says she never met Xana Kernodle's mother. Great. This is what that user is pointing out. You're wrong, sir. Quit repeating false information. It's been proven that Ann Taylor was never Xana Kernodle's attorney. Well, one article did say she was an attorney of record for about a month. And here's the kicker. I think there's one sentence I wanted to point out. Here it is. Kara Kernodle, Xana's mother, previously said that Ann Taylor represented her in a felony drug charge out of Kootenai County. She told News Nation Ashley Banfield that she felt heartbroken and betrayed after Taylor withdrew from her case representing Coberger. So before you bust my nuts about me being so incorrect, Kara Kernodle herself said to people in the media that Ann Taylor was her attorney of record. So why are people saying that it happened? Because even Kara said it was the case. And in legal documents, there's a period of time where for a month, Ann Taylor was listed as attorney of record and then dropped it with that slight overlap. Now, again, the argument is, without reading all of the details of this, because we're going long, is that as the lead public defender in the county, Ann Taylor's name was on every piece of paper. So her name was on the paper for Kara Kernodle, but may not have been the signed representative counsel for Kara Kernodle. But anyways, I just wanted to point out, before you bust my nuts too much about it, Kara Kernodle herself previously said in the media that Ann Taylor was her representative attorney and that she was heartbroken that she stepped down. So maybe cut me a little slack by saying that that's out there in the news. And again, my breakdown of all the different theories is just that. These are the theories out there. I'm not saying which ones are true. I'm giving my rank of which ones I think have most weight on it, but I wasn't making a statement of fact. I'm saying this is what people are saying, and this is why they're saying it. Woo! Last email. Let's get one more email. Remove that. This is my favorite. This is humor on the way out, really. So on my theories, I had 22 different theories. This one says you forgot the most important one. Murphy did it. You know, I have to be honest. Out of all the theories that are out there on the internet, I never considered that the dog Murphy might have actually murdered all 4 people in the Idaho 4 case. Good job. I didn't even have the user's name. I got a chuckle out of this. I think they removed it shortly after. I thought it was funny enough that I wanted to mention it. I never did consider Murphy the dog did the murders, but well said. Thanks for the humor. It was kind of funny. All right. That's it for tonight's show. Up on stage for the close. Are there any last questions? Again, the after show. Let me put the after show up one more time on screen. I'm going to put that up, and then I'm going to pull that up. Oops, that up. So there you go. If you want to be part of the After Dark party, this is on Discord. You want to get signed into the Discord channel now. I'm going to be taking a short break for about 5 to 7 minutes to close down this feed, start the Backstage feed for YouTube, because you can, on YouTube, on the Backstage account, you could watch and listen to the discussion, but not really participate. We won't be able to see your chat, unfortunately. I'm still trying to figure out why, but you'll be able to watch and listen if you're so inclined to listen to people be pretty blunt. We drop more swear words. We may have had a few drinks. It may get a little loose in there. It's not a deadline on how long it lasts. It could last a half hour. It could last 2 hours. We don't know. And that's going to be part of what's coming out on the after party. So my wife's offering to help anybody that wants to get help with getting into Discord and getting it installed. You don't have to install Discord necessarily, by the way. It does run off of a web browser, so you don't have to install anything. So I'm going to go ahead and kill out the stream. Message Devil's Advocates 2 if you want help on TikTok. Message her on TikTok if you need that help. Go to on screen. You should be able to see, if you can see it well enough, on TikTok and YouTube. There's a channel here called Devil's Advocates Backstage on YouTube. I will try to also have this up here, which is the main address for the Discord channel. I'll have that on. This is confusing. This channel will be streaming live, and on there I'll put this same piece of paper that's showing, if you will, up there, so that you can get the Discord channel and participate in the discussion. Other than that, thank you all for coming tonight and listening to another long-winded rant. I have hours and hours and hours of long-form content on both Luigi Mangione and Bryan Kohberger if you're interested in hearing my deep dives on legal documents, analysis, theories, all that good stuff. In the meantime, thank you all for showing up. Spread the word. Help us get this channel to grow. Probably not going to grow much on TikTok, though, because they're suppressing that account. I'll get off that rant. Talk to you guys later. Have a good night.